Hi, this is Sean D'Souza, and you're listening to the 3-Month Vacation Podcast. This podcast isn't some magic trick about how to work less. Instead, it's about how to really enjoy the work that you do and to enjoy your vacation time. Hi, it's Sean, and you're listening to the 3 a.m. podcast. Well, I wanted to say 3-month vacation, but somehow 3 a.m. came out, and it's not 3 a.m. right now. It's 4:18. Anyway, let's go. Most of us have heard that Shakespeare quote, "To be or not to be, that is the question." And just as it fits a Shakespeare play, it also fits our business and precisely our list building exercises. When we think of building lists, we hope that some course will give us a silver bullet, and that some coach will tell you which button to press, and then you'll have a list. And then there are people that come along that tell us that we can build our lists pretty much like Jack and the Beanstalk story, that we can have nothing today and tomorrow we can have this huge list. Unfortunately for all of us, these promises are castles in the sand. And the reason why we fail time and time again to build lists is because we believe the dream merchants and we fail to pay attention onto how to build a list. Any list is almost built in the same way. So let's take a look at 3 points like we always do on this podcast. We'll start out with the first one, which is how a list really gets built, especially when you don't have an endless advertising budget. The second point is why you need to drive clients from point A to point B if you ever want them to be on your list. And the third thing we'll cover is why you need to sell something to those clients or risk losing them forever. Let's get to the first point, which is how a list really gets built when you don't have an endless advertising budget. Back in the 60s, when my father built his business, there were only 2 options for him to get clients. The first was through word of mouth or referrals, and the second was through advertising. However, word of mouth only works once you've been in business for a while. Now, if you're wondering what he did, he ran a college, which was about shorthand and typing, and he taught people how to become secretaries. He'd worked for a while with somebody else, then he decided to start his own business. So there he was, just at the starting point, and he had only one recourse, just one method, which was advertising. Back then, advertising was in the classified sections of the newspaper, and that was a very viable system because it was cheaper, but also because people read the classifieds in their newspaper. It was just a trickle of clients at first, but he combined both the systems. He worked on the advertising part, he put in the classifieds, and then he also gave out leaflets. And that is precisely what got his business going and created what we'd call today a list. The problem with advertising is that it's a costly exercise. Ask anyone who's run a Google or a Facebook ads campaign, and perhaps you've done it yourself, you'll find that you tend to spend a lot of money without clear results. If you persist, however, you'll figure out what you're doing, and then you'll make those corrections. You'll fix them over time, and then advertising becomes a very efficient and profitable way to get clients to join you. And once they join you, they buy your products, they buy your services. Therein lies the irony of growing a business. And you're going to ask, what's the irony about? The irony is that there is no quick method. Whether you choose advertising or content marketing, such as blogs, videos, podcasts, etc., you're always circling the airport. We know fully well that it takes time to get a business going. Yet no one can tell us how much time it takes. Which is why when you go to a website and they tell you that you can grow your list to 100,000 or that you will get 50,000 readers or at least that you can double or treble your list, immediately you feel, okay, so I don't have to circle the airport. I can hack my way to 10,000 podcast downloads a month. And you know it's hype, and I know it's hype, and it doesn't stop us from clicking on that link. It doesn't stop us from trying to find a faster way to land that plane to stop circling the airport. Because all of us seem to feel that this method of growing slowly is all wrong, that somehow there's some button that can be pressed, some shortcut that we can take, we can bypass this nightmare of slow, tedious list building. Yet in example after example, everything is tortoise-like. And if you don't have an advertising budget, what you have to do right away is you have to have the ability to create content. Which brings us to the big secrets of list building. And they are: 1, what medium you will choose. 2, at what frequency will you create? What frequency will you broadcast content? And finally, do you have a plan for the next 7 years or more? The first thing is what medium you will choose. This is the easiest question of all. What will you do? Back in 2008, when we conducted a version of the information products course, I was keen on clients creating books and courses. At which point, one client, Paul Wolf, decided to take the concepts he'd learned on the course and use it instead for YouTube. Paul was really struggling. He'd been a bass guitarist in a band, and that's the kind of band that plays for weddings and corporate events. And in 2008, the market crashed. They were not getting a single job. I mean, literally not a single job. The people who wanted their services could not pay for it, and those who could pay for it did not want to bring any attention to themselves. They did not want to say, hey, we've got cash in hand in the middle of a big recession. So they didn't pay for the band. Paul decided he was going to teach what he knew, and he was going to do it on YouTube. He simply taught people how to play bass guitar. And what he did was he used the medium of video. And there it is. You have to choose a medium. Some people choose Instagram. Others choose LinkedIn. Others, like us, choose email marketing or podcast. Whatever you choose, you need to choose a medium. And this pops up question number 1, which is, what is your medium? And the second thing is, at what frequency will you create and broadcast content? At Psychotactics, we've tried to publish on YouTube. Then we took a stab in Instagram. And we were among the first 100 people on the planet to be on LinkedIn. So here's a pop quiz for you. Which of the above media have we succeeded in? If your answer was none, then you're right. We haven't succeeded at YouTube or LinkedIn or Instagram because we had no idea how often we'd create, no idea how often we'd broadcast the content. When we started the Psychotactics newsletter, we knew that we were going to have a frequency. We set a frequency goal. We know that it goes out once a week, and then later it went to twice a week. When we first started podcasts, which was way back in 2006 or 2007, we didn't use the concepts that had made us successful in the first place. I'd record a podcast whenever I felt like it, and then at some point in time, it just fizzled out. But in December 2014, we decided, let's do a second go at this podcast business. And the second time around, we put a frequency plan in place. And I'm telling you, this is what you have to pay attention to. This is important. You have to know at what frequency you are going to publish something. If you don't have a frequency, you don't have anything. If you watch the news every night, you know what I mean. When you turn on the news at 6 o'clock, there it is. It has to be there. That's what you call frequency. And this is the one thing that falls down over and over and over again. People don't look at what frequency am I going to publish. And they make this mistake. And if you don't have a frequency, you don't have a deadline. If you don't have a deadline, you don't have any planning. If you don't have any planning, you don't have, you know what I'm saying, right? So frequency becomes the most crucial aspect of all. You've chosen your medium, but you have to know the frequency because that is a commitment. And when you make that commitment, then you know, wait, I'm in this thing for real. And this takes us to our third question, which is, do you have a plan? Do you have a plan for the next 7 years or more? If you ask, why do I need a plan for so long down the line? Well, here's a question. How many podcasts get past the 10th episode? It might surprise you to know that 58% of all podcasts never get past 10. 58%. And they don't get past the 10th episode. And that figure plays out in similar fashion no matter whether you look at blogs or videos or even paid advertising. People start, they jerk forward, and then after a few days or weeks or even months, they stop in their tracks, and then they try to find another snake oil merchant that promises them 10,000 downloads or 10,000 subscribers. And if you look at anything that has not succeeded, then you will get these 3 points. They keep circling the airport, which is, what is your medium, what is your frequency, and for how long are you going to go? My father's secretarial college started quietly. For the first few years, it teetered, like a lot of online and offline businesses do. But as the years passed, it not only grew in reputation, but he got better at teaching and also better at maximizing his advertising budget. When you're in it for the long run, you realize that you have to pace yourself. You have to plan, you have to work that plan, you have to tear up that plan, you have to create another one. And that's how it goes, week after week, month after month, year after year, and in some cases, decade after decade. If you don't have a 7-year plan, and of course that number is random, then the chances of you ending up on the 58% heap is almost guaranteed. No one starts off thinking the journey is going to be so long, but invariably it is. The medium and consistency and all of that stuff is very crucial, but we've seen restaurants that have lasted for 7 years and then failed, or businesses that have run for 25 years and failed. That's not the point. The point is that the failure rate is much greater when you don't have those systems in place. We kind of know that the ones that are guaranteed to fail are those that have given up the 10th episode. And this is because in 10 episodes, the medium will not reveal its secrets to you. It will wait for you to be patient. And bit by bit, you will get faster, you will get better, you will get more efficient. You start out with making a podcast, and it takes 8 to 10 hours to make 20 minutes of recording time. You start out making a YouTube video, and you think, does it really take that much time, the whole day, to make 30 minutes of YouTube video? But the medium is a hard taskmaster. It wants you to be committed, to be in it for the long run. And so you're going to take enormous amounts of time in the beginning, and many people do, and then they bail out after the 10th episode. To build a list, you have to ask the 3 questions. You have to answer those 3 questions. List building fails for many reasons. The first one is all of this doubling and trebling of business, of getting 100,000 people on your list, all of that nonsense. And if you want to fail spectacularly, then you have to stay on that list. You need to find out all of those get-rich-quick people and then get on all of their lists and then buy everything that they have, and you will fail spectacularly because what you're really buying into is a dream and not a reality. And what is the reality? The reality is to answer these 3 questions. What is the medium? How frequent are you going to be? And for how long are you going to go? Are you going to go for at least 7 years? And sorry to throw a cliche at you, but the years pass very quickly. We started out this podcast in 2014. When we talk about it amongst ourselves, Renuka and I, we can't believe that 7 years have passed already. We're in 2021. 7 years of podcasting, just like that. And it has driven people to the business from a completely different medium. We started out with email marketing. We continued with email marketing. We did some courses and offline stuff. And clients have found the podcast and then found Psychotactics. And that's how we continue to build the list. It's not one method. There are several avenues where people join the list. But what I'm saying is that you have to have that consistency. Now, this brings us to the end of this podcast. It could be longer. It could go for 20 minutes. It's only 12 minutes at this stage. And the reason why we need to stop here is because this is so crucial that you answer these 3 questions. So let's just summarize what those 3 questions are all about. The first is the medium. What medium are you going to start with? This isn't to say that you're going to stay in the medium forever. As I said, we started out with email marketing. We've done offline workshops. We've done meet and greets. We've done webinars, lots of stuff. But you can't do lots of stuff all at once. So you have to pick one medium. And then maybe one person will show up. And then maybe after a while, the second person will show up. And then the third person. And then you systematically grow your business. But you choose that medium first. Once you've got that medium going, then you have to decide what frequency are you going to publish. Is it going to be twice a day? Is it going to be once a day? Is it going to be once a week? What is the frequency? If you don't know the frequency, nothing happens. And finally, it is going to last for a while. You think, wait, 7 years is so much out there in the distance. And 2028 will be here tomorrow, ringing your doorbell, waiting to get in. What's the one thing you can do today? Get a piece of paper, get a pen, and answer the 3 questions. Get yourself some tea or some coffee and find a quiet spot in your house. And that's where you answer the questions, because now you're finally making a commitment. And then over the years, if you decide that you want to expand, just like we went from newsletters to, say, webinars to podcasts, then you get better at everything. And so it takes less time to do everything and you can expand, but you don't have to do it all at once. There is no magic bullet. There is just a piece of paper, a pen, and 3 questions. And that will help you, no matter whether you're doing your planning for your life or your business. But right now, it's your business. So let's get that going. And let's find out what's happening in Psychotactics land. It's almost April, and what happens in April? On the 10th of April, we have the home study version of the article writing course. Most people want to write. They don't know how to construct the article. They don't realize that there are so many elements to the article and that you have to assemble it pretty much like a Lego set. And of course, there's a lot of creativity and storytelling and everything else, but you have to know how to put the pieces together. There's a reason why so many articles on the internet look so boring, and they're all 3 ways to do this and 7 ways to do that. And that is because people haven't learned the craft of writing, because it is a craft. It is a skill that you have to learn what you need to do and then how to go about it. There are only 25 copies available. Yes, they're digital, but we always have this restriction. And yes, you have to be on the waiting list. So if you'd like to be on the waiting list, or if you just like to get some goodies, go to psychotactics.com/AW goodies. That AW stands for article writing. So psychotactics.com, AW goodies. If you're not on the list, you do not get a notification. So you have to be on that list. So go to psychotactics.com/AW goodies. That's April. In May, what we have is the pre-sale course. Again, when we sell something, that's probably the point when we are ready. But when is the client ready? One of the things we have to do in New Zealand, if we want to get tourists, is we have to get them prepared. A tourist does not get on a plane and fly for 12 hours and in some case 24 hours to get to New Zealand. They have to decide. They have to consider it. They have to plan for it, and they have to get here. So that pre-sale starts a lot in advance. And you might be selling a little product, you might be selling some service, you might be selling some kind of workshop or training or webinar, and the client is never ready when you're trying to sell. There is a whole sequence of steps that you have to take. And people who have done the pre-sale course, and you can speak to them, we can give you some references if you like. Well, people find that the way they were approaching the whole sales exercise was terrible before. And they only know that once they do the pre-sale course. It's not like they were not doing well before. It's not like they were not selling anything before. But the tedium, the amount of work, the amount of weeks, all of the things that they were doing before were so inefficient and so frustrating that they said once they got the pre-sale course, it all became so easy. And then they have waiting lists, and then they have people who want to get in. And that's the best thing you can do as someone who's selling a product or a service. Your whole energy is into building a better course, into better training, better whatever. It's not in marketing. In fact, a good marketer is probably someone who does very little of those constant autoresponders telling you, oh, you have to sign up now. Oh, wait a second, this timer is going off. No. People need to be outside your door when you open it. And then they need to be rushing in. And that's the kind of thing that pre-sale does for you in a very genteel way, in a very sophisticated, elegant way. That course is going to be available on the 15th of May. We'll get more details sooner than later. Which brings us to the end of this podcast, and I hope you have that piece of paper and you're going to answer those 3 questions. I'll say bye for now. Bye-bye.